Do you want your tulips to bloom again next year without spending any more money on new bulbs? I'll tell you what to do and which of today's tulips are more likely to rebloom next year. Hi, I'm Michaela and I garden in Zone 6 in Romania, Eastern Europe. First off, while the tulips are still in bloom, there's nothing for you to do except admire them and enjoy their beauty. You don't have to fertilize them, you don't have to water them, or maybe water them just once a week if there's no rain at all. What to do with the tulips after blooming? Well, if we don't want them at all for next year, no problem. We can just lift them up and throw them in the compost pile. You just grab the tulip by the stem and you pull up and off it goes easily with the bulb. Discard. But if we want to keep them blooming next year, the first thing to do is to deadhead them, which is basically cut off the spent blooms. And now all that is left here are the green stems and the green leaves. Green in plants means chlorophyll, and chlorophyll in plants means the capacity to nourish themselves, to absorb solar energy, and to store everything good, all the energy in the bulb, which will flower next year. And how long do we have to keep these green stems and leaves of the tulips? Well, for at least 4 to 6 weeks until they go brown and they die off all by themselves. In this pot, I also had the Slawa tulips, which bloomed 2 weeks in advance. I deadheaded them, and now their foliage is already starting to go yellow. And if you are gonna hate the way the yellow leaves are gonna show in your garden, my advice is to plant the tulip bulbs in among other perennials. As the young perennials shoot off new leaves in the springtime, they will cover up and they will hide the dying yellow foliage of the tulips. And if we grew our tulips in pots, like I did, it's quite easy to take the whole pot and put it away where you can't see it until the leaves die off completely. But make sure it is a very, very sunny location. Ta-da! So in these 4 weeks, from deadheading the spent tulips and until their foliage dies off completely, we treat tulips like they were young seedlings. Do we give them sunshine? Yes, I already said that. Do we water them? Yes, but in moderation. We water them once a week if there's no rain at all. And do we fertilize them? Yes, we do. We feed them once a week. I like to feed them an organic fish fertilizer. Alternatively, some gardeners like to keep the feeding until the autumn, when they feed a new layer of compost for the old tulips. And now for the sad part. Not all our tulips have the same chances to bloom again next year. Yes, back in my grandma's garden, the tulips would come back reliably year after year. But also, back in those days, there was no global market, and the breeders were not coming up with 4,000 new hybrids each year. So in today's world, the only tulips which I guarantee will perennialize are the botanical tulips. The botanical tulips are non-hybridized, They come back year after year. They are the first to bloom together with the first narcissi. Here, for example, I have the Giuseppe Verdi botanical tulips. They bloomed more than 5 weeks ago. Their foliage is almost dying off, and they will come back reliably year after year. The botanical tulips. And how do we know which ones are the botanical tulips? Oh, it's very easy. We keep off the label of our tulips, and on the back we can always find out which ones are the botanical tulips. They are called Grigi or Grigii. I will write it down. Apart from the botanical tulips, there are other kind of tulips with great chances to come back year after year. Those are Triumph hybrids, Darwin tulips, and Fosteriana tulips. I've got here a few examples of tulips like this. Pink Ardor, a Triumph tulip. Red Riding Hood, it's a botanical tulip, Tulipa grigii. Jimmy, Tulipa Triumph. Slawa, Triumph. Orange Van Eyck, Darwin hybrid. Van Eyck, Darwin hybrid. For example, in here I have a Darwin hybrid, Orange Van Eyck, and they have at least 50% chances to come back next year. So I will deadhead them now. And some of the most showy tulips are so highly hybridized and they are very unstable. They are most likely never to come back for us. So the parrot tulips, the fringe tulips, the star-shaped tulips, all of these, I'm sorry to say, are most unlikely never ever to come back. I don't even bother with them. I just pull them out, and in the fall I will buy other ones. Like I showed you in the beginning, we take the stem and they come off very quickly. Until we will shop again this fall for very showy and interesting and new tulips, click here to see my absolute favorite tulips of this year from our garden, all in pots.